It's great being with you this morning. My name is Michael Harvey. I'm married to Aika, who is German, which means I have a German mother-in-law. So, any attempt at humour is only after 25 years of married life I'm yet to make my mother-in-law laugh. Cry a few times, but certainly not laugh. So I'll just be testing some things out on you this morning, just to see if tomorrow could be the day. The first little smirk, but I'm sure they're smirking quite well after the World Cup triumph. But great to be with you. The course of my life was changed back around about 11 years ago now. I'm a lay person. I just want to make that very clear to you. I'm a lay person, an Anglican lay person. And I was having a cup of coffee with the communications director of the Bishop of Manchester, who'd had this idea about a welcome Sunday. And she changed the course of my life. Up until that point, I'd been in business and started a few businesses. But she changed the course of my life by saying to me, Michael, if I take the media side of this thing that we hadn't named at that point, would you look after the clergy? Well, little did I know I got the rough end of the stick on that particular deal. As an innocent layperson, right, this is what they did to me. As an innocent layperson, they sent me to clergy chapter meetings. Now, not even clergy want to go to clergy chapter it was really, and immediately they told me why I shouldn't be doing any of this kind of stuff. Fortunately, I come from a a way of thinking that I particularly like it when it doesn't go well, rather than when it does go well. So that was 10, 11 years ago now. And this morning, what I want to develop is continue to develop this whole idea and the movement that we're making in this area. But maybe one question, two possible answers. You can only give me one of these answers to see if this is going to be of any use to you this morning. One question, two possible answers. So, is the congregation you are representing this morning, is it welcoming or inviting? Say no more. Okay. So you know the answer I receive to that, don't you, as I go around the world? Welcoming. But how blooming welcoming can we be if we're not inviting? You know, we're welcoming as long as people get themselves across the threshold of a church building, maybe. But sometimes we don't take our welcome out across the threshold of a church building into something, one little aspect of welcome might be called inviting. And again, just the obvious finding, as I've been trotting around the world, is that it really takes a brave person to walk into a church building on their own nowadays. And I'm just talking about clergy. But us lot, I tell you, they have to be very brave, don't they? Anyway, so that's why invitation is utterly vital. It's utterly vital today. It might not have been, as vital in times past, but something's happened. Something's happened that essentially people are not coming in the numbers that they once were, and we've got really, really confused. And there's often this thought, well, if they're not coming, maybe they don't want to come. And my finding is not that. No, I think that they're suffering from something that we are suffering from. So, I want to look at creating a culture of invitation. So if you forgive me this morning, I just really want to become one-eyed about this and just think with you about invitation. So create a culture of invitation featuring the seeds of invitation. There's another little kind of phrase up there, just in the corner of the slide, which is unlocking the growth. Now, I have to kind of publicly admit, I do not believe in church growth. I think it's an absolute load of rubbish, church growth. So clearly what you need to do now is go home to your Christian libraries, pull out all the church growth books, and do ritual burning of every, except mine, by the way. Don't do it with mine, you know, kind of. What I mean by that is this. Paul said, I, Paul, planted, Apollos watered, but it's God that gives the growth. Now, I know it may be a really fine point here that I'm trying to make, but it seems to me, in our generation, we're trying to help God. We're trying to help God. But in fact, in the end, it's God that gives the growth. Now, there are parts that we play, which is the planting and the nurturing, but in the end, it's God that gives the growth. And so, my basic finding from around the world, as I've gone around the world, is that we are stopping God doing what God wants to do. Now, this is a terrible accusation for me to make of the church, that we are stopping God. And in fact, if my wife was with me right now, she'd be sat on the front row, just for this moment, mouthing to me, careful. She's German as well, so careful, Michael. And so I'm going to have to reverse the conversation with my wife now. And it'll go something like this: darling, why do I need to be careful? And she will say, well, because God is sovereign. God will do whatever God wants to do. And you know what? It's taken me 25 years publicly to admit my wife is correct. But I'm on the other side of the pennine, so there's never going to get back to her. She is correct. There's no doubt about it. God is sovereign. God will do whatever God wants to do. But you know what? Plan A of God was not taking the children of Israel into the wilderness. That was not Plan A. And the sovereignty of God meets the free will of us all. We can choose to do whatever we want to do. So I do think we're choosing to do whatever we want to do. And we are stopping God doing what God wants to do. Now keep me to this. I want to show you how we're actually kind of doing that. And it's really, really, kind of important. If that is the case, then we need to do something about it. But we'll come to that in a couple of slides' time. I have made so many mistakes on this journey. So many mistakes. I try and get senior denominational leaders to model invitation for me. This is Bishop Colin Johnson. I'll not tell you which one is the bishop. You'll work that one out yourself. This is Bishop Colin Johnson. Well, actually, he was Bishop Colin Johnson when he started working with me. He's now Archbishop, so stick with me. Promotion. I said to Colin, by the way, that's Colin to you and I. I said to Colin, would you model invitation for me? What I didn't say was dress up. What on earth he was doing, dressed like that, outside Toronto's main train station, at the height of rush hour, I will never know. Some people say I have control over bishops. I have no control over bishops at all. I refute, the allegation that I have no control. But of course, when bishops are seen like this, the media get interested. Normally the headline is "Bishop seen in public," or something like that. So in this particular instance, not only did they send a photographer, they sent a journalist as well. And alarm bells were ringing, kind of for me. Don't do it. Well, no, this is what the journalist wrote about what I can only call as the incident. The Anglican bishops were in mixed company outside Union Station, as half a dozen young women in kilted dresses handed out birthday cards for Foster's Lager in a beer promotion. At least one passerby briefly thought the two groups were together. before having the confusion sorted out. However, the Anglican Church and Foster's Lager do share one thing. Those who like it a lot. I never meant it to be like that, but at least there was some modelling of invitation going on. Interestingly, if I can ever get a senior denominational leader modelling this way, it does have an incredible spiritual impact. Not because of the inviting that they're doing, but because of what it's saying back to us as congregational members, which is a bit like, well, if they can do it, we can do it. You know, if they get out there and lead in this way, we can do it. And in the Diocese of Toronto, they added 200 people to their churches. 6 months later, 200 people were added to their churches as a result of this initiative. So mistakes, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And of course, you know, in the church you're not allowed to make mistakes, are you? Oh, a shame, eh? I've made loads. Trial and error. You're not supposed to do that, are you? You're supposed to get everything right the first time we do it. What a load of rubbish. So here's the kind of the stats of the journey so far. Imagine, you know, a coffee shop in Manchester. You know, kind of just starting off with this idea of trying to kind of get this thing into the life of the church. It's now gone to 17 countries, 5 continents, 25,000 participating churches, and in 2012, 30,000 people added to the church in one day. But it's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I mean, you do the maths with me. 30,000 people divided by 25,000 participating churches. That's 1 and a bit per church. Did you get a bit? I'm trying to find the bits around the world. I really am. Oh, there they are. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Now, if it was in a stadium, we'd be going flipping heck. A real move of God. If it was in a stadium, but no, it's not in a stadium. It is scattered far and wide. So I'll let you into kind of a typical day in the life of Michael Harvey. 6 weeks after an invitational event, I will ring up a church leader and say, how did it go? I need a hole in the head for continuing to do this. I shouldn't do it, you know, kind of tell me to stop doing this, but I can't help myself. How did it go? And invariably, on the other end of the phone, I hear this, terrible. I go, really? Terrible? And they say, yes. I only had 10 invited guests. Now, at this moment, I just need to kind of suspend the phone call for a minute and let you know what's going on in my mind as I'm hearing this. That doesn't sound terrible. 10 invited guests doesn't sound terrible. But after all, I am speaking to a church leader. So I need to be careful with what I say next. Let's go back to the phone call. Your Majesty, that doesn't sound terrible. And they say, yeah, well, only 1 has stayed. We're not doing it next year. And I have to pinch myself. You know, did I just hear that? Only 1 has stayed. We're not doing it next year. See, Jesus told a story about that. He said, if you had 100 sheep and 1 of them went astray, wouldn't you go after the 1? Well, what a stupid story that is. Of course we wouldn't be going after the 1. We've got enough trouble with the 99. It's a stupid story, isn't it? I just wonder, what is it that we're looking for now? What is it that we're after? You know, I really do wonder, if we don't look after the ones, you know, the few, why would God give us any more? But these are just some of the things that I'm just observing and seeing. It's as if we're after the crowds. You know, we're after kind of something, whereas sometimes God gives us the 1 and the 2, just to see how that goes. If you don't remember anything I say to you this morning, I beg you, please remember this. I believe success in this whole area isn't a percentage, isn't a number, isn't a line on a graph. Success is one person inviting one person. Now please note what I didn't say. I didn't say success is one person inviting one person and that person saying yes. This is one of the most profoundly important points for our generation of Christianity. Success is just the invitation as nudged or as prompted by God. The yes and the no of an invitation belong to God. It doesn't belong to us. That's got nothing to do with us. Yes and no belong to God. You see, one of the problems we're facing is many of us as congregational members have never got over the last time somebody said no to us. It's a real problem. A real problem. And what I think has happened to us is we've exchanged faithfulness for success. It's a terrible, terrible exchange. You know, is there any chance of just getting invitation back into the life of the church and just being content with inviting? Is there any chance? Or do we have to have the yeses before we can actually do this thing? Problem is, church leaders like myself, I think, to get into God's territory with all of this. And our language can sometimes be slightly unhelpful. So we can hear ourselves saying things like this. Not just invite somebody, but bring someone. I mean, bring someone, what you're supposed to do, kidnap them. Then blindfold them. Then load them in the boot of your car when you find out where they are when the first hymn begins. I'm not sure that bring is the right approach here. Is there just no chance of inviting? Is there no chance of us just getting back to faithfulness rather than success? So the common defence in avoiding a sense of failure is to stop trying. If you lower your expectations until they're already met, you'll never be disappointed. So if you've wondered why we've got a problem here, it's really hard enough to invite without the added pressure of having to get the yes. So that's what is really going on within our congregations. If at first you don't succeed, hide all the evidence that you tried is probably kind of a good way to look at this. So here's another major finding from going around the world to all of these countries. In Western Christianity, I found that if a church does an invitational event, all of the inviting is being done by 20% of the congregation. So 2 out of 10 are doing the inviting. In fact, my latest findings are telling me it's between 80 to 95% of congregational members have no intention of inviting anyone. I'll say that figure again. So it's 8 to 9.5 out of 10 have no intention of inviting anyone. You see, I love it when it goes wrong. So that for me is like so exciting. 8 to 9.5. Now, no intention of inviting. Now, we would like to, but we have no intention of actually doing it. And there's hope in that. There's hope in that. So, you know, as I come from the north and don't have a PhD, I had to go around the world trying to work out what on earth was going on. So, you know, if you had a PhD, you'd have to have a diagnostic tool, you know, to kind of work this stuff out. So as I come from the north, I've just gone around the world asking why. I'm so sorry it can't be more complicated than that. But I've gone around the world asked the question why we've got a problem inviting. So the reasons why Christians don't invite. What I'd like us to do, I'd like you to join in the research with me. If you wouldn't mind, if you just turn to the person next to you, or behind you, in front of you, and just have a brief conversation. Why do you think Christians don't invite their friends? And then what I want to do, I'll come back to you and we'll kind of mark some things up on the board. Just kind of for 2 or 3 minutes, just ask the person. Scribing it down, and Mark will provide the microphone. Who's got a reason we don't invite? Who'll start us off, and we'll wait for the microphone so we can hear.
Scared of rejection.
Scared of rejection, thank you. Never ever heard that one before. Fantastic. Yes.
People don't like to admit that they're practicing Christians.
Okay, fantastic. People don't like to admit that they're practicing Christians. Marvellous, thank you.
Preconceptions of who we should invite.
So yeah, so basically, the maybe not right people, right? You know, kind of preconceptions on who we might invite. Yes.
Lots of churchgoers only know churchgoers.
Yeah, so we have no friends. Other than ones in the congregation, of course. Yeah, marvellous.
In a worry that they won't enjoy it when they come.
Really? You're joking. So, worry that they might not enjoy it when they come. In fact, just a comment on that is that Anglicans around the world express it in a slightly different way, which goes like this: I suffer, I don't want my friends.
As Christian lay people, we've got into the habit of leaving it to the professionals.
The professionals, the serious okay. Not my job.
I wouldn't mind. She's my daughter. I want to comment here. We don't want to invite anybody because ours is a private club.
Okay, great, thank you. Fantastic. Anyone here? Yes?
We're too elderly to do any of that.
We're too elderly to do any of that. Fantastic, yes?
Fear.
Fear. Really fantastic. Fear. That sounds kind of superb. Great. And yeah.
It might involve some commitment from us, like if you were doing like a Keep Fit class, you'd say, come along and see how you feel.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say, come along, I'll look after you for the next 10 years and make sure you get baptised.
Yeah, so it's,
no? It's a responsibility.
Responsibility and a commitment towards somebody. Yeah, fantastic. Let's just, this last one, and then that'll be great.
Not sure of the words to use to phrase it up.
Yeah, not sure what to say. Fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mike, for doing that. What I'm trying to model for you right now is your first tool. So your first tool is to say, right, this idiot comes across from the other side of the Pennines and says 80 to 95% of us have no intention of inviting anybody. Why? There's your first tool. You know, do the same things I've just done now. Just get a focus group, a little focus group together in your congregation as to why we're not going to do it. I said before that we were locking down growth. We were stopping God doing what God wants to do. Now, what I've tried to do in that exercise is to show you how we do it. You see, all of these answers here, and again I'll read them out: scared of rejection, don't like to admit that we're Christians, preconception of who to invite, no friends, they won't enjoy it, leave it to the professionals, private club, too elderly, fear, too much commitment, don't know the words to say. All of these here, there's good big dollops of truth about it. Absolutely, we don't kind of swallow lies. No. We swallow big dollops of truth, but in fact, it's not the whole truth. And very often, God nudges us to invite somebody, but we put one of these reasons on top of the prompt of God. So let me give you an example. We are so Christian about invitation. We do the thinking for our friends. Will my friend want to come to this? No. So we save them the bother, say no to a question we don't want to ask them. So basically, why this is so important is these are your sermon titles for the next few weeks. Won't do any good, but anyway, no good at all. But anyway, here's your sermon title for the next few weeks. How to invite when we're scared of rejection? How can we invite when we don't like to admit that we're Christians? How can we invite when we have no idea of who to invite, or we do, but I'm not sure that they would be welcome here? These are the sermon teaching titles for the next few weeks, which means in an area of this size, in a diocese of this size, there's always a member of clergy who at this moment in time is preparing the 26-week sermon series on the sovereignty of God. Now, can I say the old bother of hearing this sermon series by saying the conclusion in week 26 is that God is sovereign? Okay. So now we've got 26 weeks spare to deal with that blooming problem. So I call this a toxic mission script. Or here's another way of saying it. This is the real creed of the church today. You don't think we believe in the Apostles' Creed, do you? Or the Nicene? No, don't believe. No, this is really what we really think. So basically, if you look carefully at these, and not got much time this morning to go into them in much depth, if you look very carefully at these, there is one of them which is always sitting underneath all the other ones. And if I'm with clergy around the world, if I had just clergy on own, and then congregational members on own, so clergy would tell me a different reason than lay people generally would tell me as to the reason we don't invite. Clergy, generally speaking, tell me it's something to do with the act of worship. It might not be, good on that week. There's a variability in the act of worship. Whereas, although that is definitely in there for congregational members, definitely, but it's not the main reason. So I think what's happened over the past 10, 15, maybe 20 years is we have spent quite a lot of time on trying to repair our acts of worship. But I want to tell you, I work with churches that have done that right across the world. I work with famous churches. I'm off to Australia to see a famous church that I'm working with in August. Now, they don't invite either. And they've got a very, very invitable service. People buy their worship albums. They've got a very, very... But they don't invite. Now, they grow in a different way, but they are also not inviting. So it's not just the act of worship which is the problem here. In fact, it always comes out at number 1 or number 2 whenever I have congregational members present. And it is the fear of rejection. It is the main problem facing the church today. It's causing all of our mission problems. Well, that doesn't really matter, does it? It's causing all of our discipleship problems. Well, that doesn't really matter. It's causing all of our financial problems. Now we're getting somewhere, aren't we? Yeah. But it is, it's causing, look, listen, I may exaggerate. So if it's not causing all of the problems, I'm trying to emphasise the fact that it's a major problem facing the church today. We can have as many initiatives as we like, but unfortunately, this is the script this is what we really, really believe. So I also kind of call it the burning bush syndrome. If afterwards, and it's likely, you're going out here and you see a bush burning, can I just say, back away from the bush. And don't take your shoes and socks off either. Now Moses came to one of my seminars and he disobeyed, you know, and so he goes towards it and the next thing he is, you want me to do what? Are you joking? You know, kind of, you know, isn't there a arrest warrant out for me in Egypt? You know, kind of, they're not going to believe me. It's not my job, you know, this. You know, don't give me the responsibility. Does this sound familiar, by the way? Kind of, it sounds fairly familiar. If only somebody else was here to hear this, wouldn't it do them much good, isn't it? This could be our problem as well, could it? Somewhere along the line. In fact, Moses in the end says, in fact, it's not my job, but I've got a great idea. My brother, he's more priest-like. You know, he's more, you know, kind of. We can pay him to do the job. You know, kind of. In fact, Moses' motto was, "Here am I, send him." I think that's what was going on anyway. So, if we look carefully at this scared of rejection bit, let's just divide it into two so we can see it a little bit more closely. So let's take the scared bit, or the fear of rejection. Now, in church circles, we don't call it fear. But if you look very carefully at the answers here given, you will find either fear stated in the answer, or you can almost assume this fear in each of these answers. Now, we generally speaking don't call it fear. We've got other little words for it, like you might catch yourself saying, "I'm a bit anxious." Now, as long as you use the word bit, it doesn't count as fear. I understand, so I understand the psychologists say. "I'm a little worried." You know, again, it's using the word little, it's everything's okay, it's fine. Concerned, everybody concerned. Careful, everybody. As you get on the hierarchical ladder, you know, to bishop level, the word changes to, this is a sensitive situation. These are scared to death, basically. We have so many fear words: hesitant, reluctant, terrified, petrified. So many fear words. So how do we start to have a congregation that was showing fear? Well, maybe we need to remind ourselves, doesn't God say quite a lot? Don't be... I know you're afraid of saying it, but anyway, we're nearly got there. Nearly got. Afraid. Don't be afraid. And yet, this idiot from Manchester comes along and asks one simple, innocent, naive question. Why are we not going to do any of this? And what appears is fear. Isn't that interesting? There's an interesting phenomenon that you may know, but not kind of clocked onto. When new people come to church, they're quite enthusiastic, you know, and or somebody's come up for an Alpha course or a Christianity Explored course or a Pilgrim course or something, and they're really, really enthusiastic, and they start inviting their friends until they work out that's not what we do around here. But just on the outskirts of church, there's little fear, there's little kind of, but once you're in, fear is there. I just wonder, kind of with God saying don't be afraid so many times, did God anticipate this was going to be a battleground area? But you see, don't be afraid in its own right is brilliant. It's a brilliant, kind of statement. But it's often accompanied with, "For I am with you." So, can I just ask, right, this question here, reasons why Christians don't invite. It was a nice, innocent question. There's nothing innocent about me, but anyway, kind of it's what I thought. I didn't mention an act of worship. I'm just asking why we don't invite. We have got 365 days in a year. We've got lots of things that we can actually invite people to. But we naturally go to the 1 hour a week. That's when we start thinking about, You know, what we're doing is compounded into 1 hour a week. I just make that observation. The other thing to say is, where is God in these answers? God completely disappears. I always have to be careful at this particular point. God disappears then. God isn't in any of the answers. And maybe, again, I'm a romantic, but I was brought up to believe that when we have an act of worship, it is for God's sake, not for our sake. And that God would be dwelling amongst our praises, and God would be present. So therefore, why should we be inviting people into our acts of worship if God is present? So it's the deeper problem here that actually we're not welcoming the presence of God into our acts of worship. And it's more about us rather than about God. You know. So fear. So is this biblical? Is this scriptural? Sorry to use that word, but anyway. So I can Bible to it, anyway. So is this right? Well, here we go. 12 spies go to spy in Canaan. Oh, those old stories for other people. All 12 saw exactly the same thing. 10 came back and said, they're blooming big over there, we've got no chance. And that's a translation from the Michael Harvey standard, by the way. 2 come back and say, they're blooming big over there, but no problem, God is with us. Can I just get enthusiastic about Christianity for a minute? I know what I mean, but God is with us. God is with us right now. Now, it's by faith, isn't it? D.L. Moody said, the gift of faith is a hint. We might have to use it at some point. It's just a kind of thought. But what we've done is we've turned faith into certainty. I believe in God. But what a load of rubbish. You know, and anyway, don't get me going. So fear is here. The other thing I want to knock down at this moment is there's been a recent report that one of the main problems we're facing in the church today is a confidence problem. What a load of rubbish. What absolute nonsense. It's sort of right, it's sort of wrong as well. So, what I mean by that is that I think sometimes God takes us into situations that we're not confident. That's when we use our faith. We have to put our faith where our fear is. And I think we see story after story. I mean, one day, the Trinity were having a bit of a laugh. And they said, right, Angel of the Lord, you go down and sort that bloke out down there. So Angel of the Lord appears to Gideon. And the Angel of the Lord says to Gideon, O mighty man of valour. Well, if you think I exaggerate, that was a bit of an exaggeration, really. You know, that was completely over the top. O mighty man of valour. I don't think so. There he was, threshing wheat in the barn for fear of the Midianites. Does that sound familiar, by the way? Fear of the Midianites. But anyway, at least Gideon joins in the humour by saying, have you got the wrong address? Because I'm the least of the least. And I think God says, great, I've been looking for you. I've been looking for somebody who's not confident. I'm looking for somebody who's vulnerable. I'm looking for somebody who's available. So all this confidence rubbish, it's setting the bar too high. It's absolute nonsense. Confidence in God, definitely. But not self-confidence. There's a big difference between the two. So fear. I believe fear is the boundary edge of the kingdom of God. I believe fear is vision. It's vision. God gives us a picture of who to invite, and we turn it into worry and anxiety. We're seeing the future in advance, and we don't like it. I think whenever God comes into our lives, God doesn't bring fear, but we sense it as fear. Because often God is asking us to do something that we're not comfortable with. So fear. But the real problem here is not the fear, the real problem is the rejection. So fear keeps us away from the rejection. So fear, I think, is one of the greatest undiscovered discipleship tools that we have. Whenever fear comes into our lives, suspect God. Suspect God. Suspect God is asking us to do something and we bodily express it as fear. But it's the rejection which is the real problem here. We ain't going to be doing any inviting because of the possibility that we'll hear the word no. That somebody might ridicule us. Like somebody might ask us a question we don't know the answer to. Like, how does the Trinity work? And your mind goes blank, doesn't it? You know, kind of, you knew the day before, but at that crucial moment. But we're not doing any inviting because of the possibility that we're going to be shown up in some way. So rejection. This is the key problem facing the church today. I'm having trouble getting this across to the church. I'm very happy for people to have a robust discussion with me about it. But it's the key problem. And yet, our missional thinkers are saying it's confidence. No. I think this is the key problem. Rejection. So, how would you help a congregation that doesn't want to be rejected? Well, who do we know in the Christian faith who was rejected? There was somebody quite important. So we're not doing any inviting because of the possibility that we might be rejected. I mean, what can we be thinking? I mean, frankly, if we've not been rejected lately, are we in the game? I'm campaigning at this moment in time to have 2 verses extracted from the Bible. Because they're very inconvenient for us in our generation. So 2 verses. I don't know whether I'm going to get very far. Bible Society are up in arms about it. But listen, they're not comfortable. So here's the first one. Consider it joy. Lovely advice in it. Imagine a little Hallmark card. Consider it joy when you face trials and tribulations. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? See, the world, by the way, is after the pursuit of happiness. Now, we've got something better than happiness, which is joy. Much better than happiness, because you can have joy in the midst of sorrow. You can have joy in the midst of something going horribly wrong. Consider it joy when you face trials and tribulations. Can I show you the trials and tribulations that God is actually asking us to face? Here's another verse that I think needs to be extracted. I glory. Again, can you just imagine the organ playing on Sunday morning? I glory in suffering. I mean, what was Paul thinking when he wrote that? I mean, you need a psychotherapist today, don't you? I glory in suffering. Well, apparently, there should be no suffering today. Apparently. This is the new thing. Tolerance and no suffering. It's very interesting. I glory in suffering because suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Isn't that interesting? But essentially, every Olympic champion has to suffer. Before they become an Olympic champion, they have to suffer, which produces character, which produces hope. I am campaigning to get character back into the life of the church. Character development. This is all about character development. Becoming who we're meant to be in Christ. So I want to kind of say the second most important thing I'm going to say to you today. Second most important thing is this. Can we be as interested in the inviter as well as the invited? I think at this moment in time, we're fishing on the wrong side of the boat. We appear to be only interested in those outside the four walls of the church building. We're not paying attention to what is going on with us, the inviter, when this stuff starts to happen. These are where our relationship with God has broken down. This is why it's really important to do this exercise and look at it in more detail. So, again, no more time to kind of work the board today. The question then is what we're going to go and do about it. You know, it's nice that we kind of found that this appears to be the script that's kind of really kind of making things happen or not happen. But what on earth are we going to do about it? So, essentially, there's a couple of resources which might be useful for you. I'm hoping at some point to come back into the diocese and do a full-day workshop to try and help congregations and clergy really attack this whole area of invitation, to try and get it into the life of the church. If you can't wait for that, I have brought with me a CD version of the kind of 3-hour workshop that I actually do. There's also a DVD version. I personally prefer the CD version for the church. Let me tell you why. The stuff that I've been doing over the past 11 years, it grows and grows. You understand a little, and then something else gets added to it. It needs to be listened to over and over again. It's like scripture, really. You know, you can go to it 6 months ago and you think, oh, I understand that. I understand that. And then you come back to it today and you see something different. And it's the same thing, I think, with some of this stuff that's going on. So again, there's some on the table over there. The other thing which I brought with me is a book with, would you believe it? All of your answers are in this book. I'm like a prophet. It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, everywhere I go, the same answers every single day. But in the book is, you know, some of the things that we can do to start to tackle some of this stuff. But the other thing which I want to kind of bring to your attention is the new season of invitation. I knew we were in trouble with Back to Church Sunday in the second year, and don't anybody have a go with me about. I've had every single word of Back to Church Sunday criticised, every single word. So don't, you know, kind of. It's okay. You can be called whatever you want. You can have it whenever you want. I don't care. As long as we start inviting, as long as we start to emphasise invitation, it doesn't matter to me at all. But I knew we were in trouble in the second year when somebody came to me and said, oh, Michael, I invited my friend on Back to Church Sunday. My friend said no. But there's always next year, Michael, isn't there? No, don't say we created an initiative. Now people can only invite once a year. So essentially, for this last couple of years, we've been piloting this thing called the season of invitation. And we looked at the autumn period. And we looked carefully and thought, actually, you could string together a number of things that we're going to do, and if we could invite the same person on those 4 or 5 occasions, they're more likely to stay. So we've been piloting it up and down the country for the past couple of years, and so now we can bring this thing to you. So it's 5 moments to build a bit of momentum. And the reason I'm putting it in at this point is, we can have a go with this. You know, this is an action that we can all do. You know, it's something we can all do. And as we found with the season, it gets easier to invite as the season goes on. So Christmas is easier to invite than Remembrance. Although I think this year Remembrance will be an absolute corker, you know, to invite. So it gets better, it gets easier, shall we say, as it goes on. But I just want to warn you, I think when you invite somebody to harvest, they're coming because of harvest. When you invite somebody to an invitation Sunday, they're coming because you've invited them. It's a slightly different invite. So don't lose the fact that actually an invitation to, kind of something like an invitation Sunday or back to church Sunday is really completely vital. So here's the autumn programme. In the packs, and again, on the table over there, you'll see I've brought a sample pack. Do take some of the invitation cards. There's an invitation card for each church represented here. So if you come from a church and somebody else has taken one, just keep the one set of invitation cards. It's just as an example of what's actually in the pack. So on the table over there, the key card is this one, which is the prayer card this year. This is the key card, where we sit the congregation down early September and we actually write in the dates of each of the events. I checked with Bishop Stephen, and apparently we are having Christmas this year. It's a diocesan initiative, I understand. Although I understand there's been some complaints that it can be quite cold at Christmas, and it'd be more appropriate to have it at a different time of the year. But apparently it's Christmas. So essentially, here's the count. We just write in the dates. And by the way, the harvest one, you can have a harvest supper in there. It doesn't always have to be a Sunday. You can mess around with this as much as you possibly want with it. And it's just an idea. That's all it is, just an idea. And so there's an invitation Sunday in September, maybe harvest in October, remembrance in November, and 2 Christmas ones. So one maybe at the beginning, one maybe towards Christmas Day itself. Again, you can mess around with it as you wish. And again, in the moments, we're doing a Back to Church Sunday children's card this year. The reason for that is children don't have a problem inviting. It's just us bigger children have a problem inviting. So maybe children will lead the way in this. There's a harvest one, remembrance, Christmas one, and Christmas 2. I'm so sorry it's simple. I'm so sorry I can't spend more time on this than that. But it's a resource. That's all it is. It's a resource. It's just something to help the whole process. And again, for churches that have not signed up, either speak to the parish development team or seasonofinvitation.co.uk. You can sign up and register and get the packs there. There's a pack. You get your packs through that website. Lovely. There's a philosopher today called Will Smith, also known as the Prince of Bel Air. He has recently said, "Be motivated by fear, hate being afraid of doing something, start attacking things of which you are scared." Which goes like this: don't be afraid. He's just left out the best bit. But I am with you, hasn't he? He's just left out the best bit. If only he knew that, what we know. Oh, he'd tell the world, wouldn't he? Yes, indeed. And it's story after story in Scripture. When you think about Abraham, how many times did he have to be told, stop disguising your wife as your sister? It's over and over again. Esther, don't let me go and see the king. I could get killed here. It's over and over and over again. You have to put your faith where your fear is. That's where it's going to do maximum damage. When we pray that prayer, the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come. Oh, Luminec is stopping the kingdom coming. Well, one finding is definitely fear. Definitely kind of fear. So start locating fear. Oh, so sorry. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry to show you this picture at this time. For those of you who don't know who this is Shane Warne. Okay? It's not Shane Warne's hair, anyway. It's Shane Warne. And what on earth has he got to do with any of this? No, I do. Actually. When England, when Shane Warne really retired from Test match cricket, England started winning Ashes series. It was just a marvellous moment. But rotter that he is, terrible person that he is, every time an Ashes series came around, he threatened to come out of retirement. So the only thing we could do was to send our secret agent, Liz Hurley, to sort the situation. Anyway, so basically, what was he going to do with this? I looked up, in Test match cricket, Shane Warne has taken 716 Test match wickets. The greatest Test match wicket-taking bowler Australia have ever produced. But in Test match cricket, I looked up, he's also bowled 40,000 balls. That's 39,286 balls of failure. It's still considered the greatest Test match wicket-taking bowler Australia have ever produced. He took a wicket every 55 to 56 balls. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take 55 to 56 invites before you get a yes, but flipping heck. I'm going to tell you the solution now. Let me tell you the solution. We ain't hearing enough no's. It's really so simple. If you start counting the no's, start counting the invitations, start working out what's going on with the inviter, things will start to happen. There's a verse in the book of Hezekiah. You have to kiss quite a lot of frogs until you find your prince. Something like that. Come on, let's do some ratio theology. You know, a sower goes out to sow the seed. Plural. Some of the seed falls on the path. Oh dear, let's have another initiative. It's pathetic. It's utterly pathetic. You know, why on earth should we be expecting yeses all the time? See, Christianity now becomes a choice. See, we've come to the end of blind obedience. You know, that time in church history where people came to church. Church was at the centre of the community. You came. You had no idea why you came. You came. There's loads of other people there. Here's my invitation story. My mum dragged me to church. I'm so sorry it was not any better than that. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for a mum who dragged me to church on the many Sundays that I didn't want to go to church. But in our generation, no. We now have got to start hearing no's. Start recording. Start celebrating faithfulness. Start really recognising that God is into faithfulness, not into success. I rather regret, some of the older hymns that we've sort of lost now in the modern, kind of age of worship singing. But remember that hymn, trust and obey. For there's no other way to be happy in Jesus. Some of those are so important for our generation. Why do we have to trust? Well, because it could go horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. And I am not promising you today that you will go and start out inviting and you'll get yeses. I think you hear me clearly. I am not promising that. But something happens to the inviter as well as the invited person. He bowled more balls of failure than any Australian Test match bowler. C.S. Lewis had 800 rejections before he had his first book published. If he had given up, there would have been no Chronicles of Narnia. Noah's results have just come in. 120 years of preaching and no converts. 120 years of building a boat and no water. Recruited into the Anglican Church. Okay, one second. It's stupid. This is stupid. If you get success into the system, you lose hope. You lose hope when everything has to work the first time you do it. Then you lose lamentation. When was the last time you had a of lament. You know, I have to say, you know, kind of, that is what lamentations are for, to cry out to God. Stop messing me around. Why have you allowed that clergy chapter to surround me? I think that's the kind of variation of the story anyway. Why are they saying nasty things about me? Well, that's lament. We don't need lament because we're into success. It's pathetic. Utterly pathetic. Now, I was told today by the two Marks that I would be facing people, this morning in particular, with a very, very high IQ. There we go. So, listen, I'm not so worried about your IQ. I'm more interested in your NQ. What is your no quotient? How many no's are you personally prepared to take for Christ? How many no's is that? See, I think the early church had a very, very high NQ. Some of them were flogged. Some of them were beaten. Some of them were driven from their homes. Some of them were imprisoned. Some of them saw their friends martyred. I think they had a very, very high NQ. The one thing I cannot promise you this morning is the floggings and the beatings. All I can promise you is the rejection. I'm so sorry I can't go the whole hog with you this morning. But maybe, if we get into the rejection, the floggings and the beatings will kind of follow. Happy days, eh? Happy days. NQ. Developing a no quotient. And this is the other reason for an NQ. Some sheep do not want to be around. It makes it take ages to get through you lot, I tell you. Anyway, Moses invited Pharaoh to let the people go free 10 times. I'm not making a case, you know, for a 9-to-1 ratio. I'm not making that case. I'm making the case that we need to look at ratio theology. God is doing something in the no's as well as the yeses. We've lost faithfulness. God is doing something in us as well as through us. 5 minutes time, a chance for you to ask a question if you've got a question. Any hard questions I'll give to the two Marks. I'll take the easy ones. In this particular case, it was God that caused the rejection of the invitation. Isn't that interesting? That it could be God. It could be God that's actually kind of causing a no. Isn't that interesting? For our sake. God was doing something in the no's with the children of Israel. There was a faith-building exercise going on right at that moment in time. I did mention before that there was between 80 to 95% of congregational members who have no intention of inviting. In most congregations I have seen around the world, there is always 5% that have no problem inviting whatsoever. Always 5%. Now they could be made up of professional inviters, those with the ring of confidence, you know, the professional inviters, but it's also what I might call serial inviters. They're like serial killers. They do quite a lot of it. And if you've got one, you know who they are. You already know who they have no shame. They have no shame. They'll invite anybody at any time. The service could be just about to begin. They've just seen somebody across the road with tattoos and 2 Rottweilers, and before you know it, they brought them into church, the dogs barking, you know, etc. You know, so they're you know, serial inviters. When I speak to serial inviters, they don't get appreciated for what they do because they sort of put the rest of the congregation to shame, and they seem to be kind of ostracised in some way. You can find your serial inviter and encourage them in some way. Maybe there's something we can learn from them. You know, what makes it easier for them to invite than the rest of us? You know, we may have an example in the congregation already. We might be able to model something. We might be able to copy in some way. Not every way, by the way, because they do tend to be out there. You know, but Whoever's coming. By the way, and never, ever, ever invite a serial inviter to one of my seminars. They hate me. They hate me. You know, because, you know, they fidget, you know, and you know, start looking at that watch and going, what's this idiot going on about? I could have been inviting somebody whilst I was in Melbourne, and there was a serial invite in the room. After about 20 minutes, he'd had enough. He got up and he said, it's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It was called rolling. He said, stupid, it's all you have to do. You know, all you have to do is just invite. He said, you look at your friends. You look at your friends and you say, well, that friend there is a 2-year project. It's going to take you 2 years to constantly inviting that friend before they say yes. That friend there is a 5-year project. It's going to take you 5 years of inviting that friend before you say yes. And that friend there is a 10-year project. It's going to take you 10 years to invite before they say yes. He said, I was speaking to one of our friends the other day. He said, listen. He said, listen. I've been inviting you for the last 2 years. In the end, you're going to be coming in a cardboard box. So you might as well come of your own volition. And he sat down. Oh, okay. Yeah, so anyway, they do tend to be slightly out there, you know, so there you go. I'll listen to the rest. So look for your 5%. Look for the person. Get them to tell. They get more rejections than the rest of the congregation put together because they ask a lot. What's happened to them? Why don't they have a problem? You know, and by the way, they don't know you've got a problem. They seem to be completely, at times, unaware that other people have got a problem. Because they just do it. Just work out what's going on with them. There's a season to sow and a season to reap, but you don't do both in the same season. We don't know the season of reaping, but we do know the season of sowing. You see, every farmer knows that you don't plant a seed one day and then come back to it the next day and go, well, where is it? Well, that didn't work. But we do. We do this all the time. Did it work? Show me something that works. Will it work, Michael? Well, every farmer plants in hope. You can only be sure. You know, can the farmer see the harvest before it's planted? Well, yes, of course. But every farmer plants the seed in hope. Anything that's worth doing, we'll never see the results of it in our lifetime. We'll never see the results in our lifetime. We plant in hope. In fact, there is what I would call a gestation period. The number there, those of you at the back, is not 666. It's 266. 266 days for a human baby. 266 days is the gestation period. I know there is currently a delegation in heaven from the Diocese of Sheffield Mothers Union negotiating a reduction in the number of those days. But I understand it's going to stay the same. And God says, if you don't like it, get your own universe. I understand that's the way it goes. Rabbits, it's a little bit less for a gestation period. Elephants, it's quite a bit more. Who knows how long it will take? And the problem with a yes, by the way, when you get a yes, and you start patting yourself on the back and everything, you could be reaping somebody else's seed sown from many, many, many years ago. Listen, and if you don't like the harvest, look in the mirror. Now, if we don't like what we're presently getting, look close at home. How much planting are we actually doing? How many invitations are happening? The harvest is indeed plentiful, but my finding out is that the inviters are very few. Very few. Questions? Does anybody have a question?